Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, welcome to the latest episode. It is Tuesday, the 9th of September, 2025. Thank you for joining me. It's lovely to have you here. I appreciate you joining me for these episodes. Now, where am I going to start today? I wanted to mention very briefly, although it's nothing really to do with cut flowers, but it is flower related. I went to the American Museum and Gardens near Bath on Sunday. Really fantastic. If you're in the area, I do recommend you go and have a look. The gardens look really great at this time of year. They've planted great big, enormous swathes of sedums, rudbeckia, verbena, grasses. I get the distinct feeling it's a garden that really peaks at this time of year, which is wonderful. And I did actually get the weather spectacularly wrong because it was supposed to be really warm and sunny on Sunday. And I made the mistake of not checking the forecast where I'm actually going. I just looked at the forecast at home. So I set off in a shorts and t-shirt, and halfway there it started to rain, and it pretty much didn't really stop until the afternoon. So I looked an absolute idiot in my shorts and t-shirt in the pouring rain. And I have always a selection of coats and jumpers and fleeces and waterproofs in the car at all times. So I had put a Barber on, and the Barber was longer than my shorts. So I looked like I'd gone out with no trousers on. So that wasn't good. I had a more productive time on Saturday sorting out one of the stables. So I mentioned that on Friday's episode. I was going to do that. It's called Kylie's room at the moment because Kylie's one of my girls who had her babies in there. And I've just always referred to it as Kylie's room. So I was tidying all of that out and throwing away just rubbish that seemed to have accumulated in there and sweeping all the shavings out. So it's just going to have a nice sand floor. I mean, sand as in like builder's sand, not nice beach sand, but at least it's a sandy floor. So that took some time. And then I can start getting the string up so that I can actually hang my dried flowers properly instead of just hanging them on nails in the feed room. So there's been all sorts of kerfuffle over the weekend, actually, not all of it related to cut flowers, but I thought I might mention it anyway, just because, it was just something that happened. And I had a suspected fraud on my debit card. So the bank cancelled it, which I did agree to. And they said, we'll send you another one. And in the meantime, they gave me a virtual one that linked up to the phone so I could still use the phone to pay for things. So that was all fine. But over the weekend, one of the payments went out for my mobile phone contract and my broadband. And so it went off the card and it declined because the card had been cancelled. So my phone stopped working. So that was a right hoo-ha. And the broadband stopped working. So yeah, that's been a bit of a kerfuffle. And then my phone seems to have just given up the ghost. So I've had to get a new second-hand refurbished phone. So then there's all the hoo-ha of that. So it's literally like it's never just one thing. There's always a whole bunch of stuff that literally come at you sideways. And I had some real tricky hormone issues yesterday. Now, I've done a whole episode on my experiences with perimenopause, and I'm not going to go into all the details of it today, but I did have a bit of an issue yesterday where my levels just went completely wild, and I was all over the place yesterday. I thought I was losing my marbles. And I went out on a walk with the dog and bumped into my yoga teacher. And she said to me, "Oh, how are you?" And I just burst into tears. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, what's happened?" And I was like, "Nothing's happened. Actually, everything is fine. Everything is great. I can tell you all the things that are going really well. Everything is fine. It's just I'm not right." So we had a bit of a chat, and anyway, came home, stuck an extra strong patch on, and within a couple of hours, I was absolutely fine. So if you do have periods of time where things just completely, like, you feel like you're losing your mind, or things just get completely out of control, do please go and get some help. Don't think that it's you and that you're going mad or that you're going crazy or anything like that. Because before I had all these menopause issues, that was my default thought, like, I'm mad, I must be going into depression, or I'm this, that, and the other. And now I know better. I know it's my body's up to all sorts of chaos. And I know that for me, anyway, this isn't medical advice, as you know, it was a hormone related issue. And I think, thank goodness that I know that now and I can find a way of navigating out of it. But I would say to you, please don't struggle by yourself. So I've got 2 orders going out this week. So back to the flower stuff. 2 orders going out this week, both of them for weddings this weekend, which has been great, but a little bit tricky to navigate because normally I just have my lovely wedding florist doesn't order. And so whatever I offer her on the availability list, she takes it and I don't need to worry about it. But this week I had a couple of availability lists out, and both of the florists wanted the same hydrangea, which was very tricky and quite a steep learning curve for me in terms of don't, you can't, I realize now you can't have 2 availability lists. You can only have one. And well, however, whoever orders first or whoever is like the priority client, yes, I haven't quite worked out how to do that yet, but I need to come up with a way, especially if I'm going to be working with more florists, that I don't offer things and then, of course, I don't have them. So it is fine. I have resolved the issue, but that was a little bit stressful for a short while. And there's just chicken issues. We haven't had any chicken issues for ages, which is always a sign that there's going to be a chicken issue because nothing with chickens is that straightforward. And having got over the issue with Dolores having pneumonia, and she's absolutely fine now, we've got an issue with 3 of the girls. One of them has sadly passed away. So Florence passed away yesterday, completely unexpectedly. Like, there was no indication with her that there was anything wrong up until yesterday morning, when she was just off color and very tired and lethargic and just absolutely not right. And normally well, sometimes a lot of the time they hide how they're really feeling because they're obviously a prey animal and they don't want everyone to know that they're sick. But I hadn't seen any signs that there was anything wrong with her. So she was isolated for the day, and then she actually passed away just as I was parking the car and going in for dog training. Um, and I knew in the evening when I went to put them to bed that she wasn't going to make it through the night. So I put her in the cat box, and she was going to come home with me so that she wasn't by herself. And anyway, just as we were pulling up to dog training, she started to pass away. So I was there at the end, which I like to be because I like to wish them well on their journey to the next part of their life, their second life, as I like to call it, and thanked her for being with us. But she hadn't been with us for very long, just a year. It's really surprising because I've got some girls up there who just will not go. I mean, not that I want them to, but I mean, they must be at least 6 or 7 years old. Diana Ross and Adele, just hanging on in there and doing incredibly well. But I don't know what happened with Florence. Anyway, Molly's got a tumour the size of a tennis ball in her at the moment, and Kylie Minogue has got, we think, a parasitic infection, which she is having some treatment for. So all in all, there's quite a lot going on up there with those guys, which is not good. I hate it when things go wrong with them. They're such they're incredibly tough. Like, they go around sort of beating each other up and they give it the big I am, and they're all charging around and this, that, and the other. And you think they're quite tough. And then when they get poorly and you realize how fragile they are, and it's all just a big show, and they're all just soft and I mean, Kylie Minogue, she just wants cuddles, and Danny's the same. Danny Minogue, they just literally want to be cuddled. They're like little pigeons. They want to be just held and carried around with, and they often have naps if I carry them around, because I think with the chickens, they don't seem to relax very much. Like the ducks are very relaxed. They sleep all the time. They're much more egalitarian. There's no pecking order with the ducks. They're really nice to each other all the time, whereas the chickens are just kind of quite mean to each other sometimes, and they don't seem to get much downtime. Anyway, I should stop. I'm rambling. I could do probably 3 or 4 hours straight on the chickens. That's not what we're here for. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to talk to you about sales numbers, because if you are a regular listener, you will know I am working my way through Lenny Larkin's book, Flower Farming for Profit, which is absolutely an amazing book. And I am going through it with a notepad, making notes, and actually answering all the questions and thinking about everything that she's asking me to think about. And so we've got to this sort of pricing and forecasting and sales projections and this kind of section. And I'm thinking, what does 2026 in the future look like? So I know roughly how much money I've made this year. And I was thinking to myself, well, what if I want to make £10,000 worth of sales in 2026? What would that look like in terms of the numbers? So I know a couple of weeks ago I was talking about plant spacings and how many plants I could fit in up there and everything. So I've been coming at it from a different angle this week, which is, this is my sales goal. What would I have to do to achieve that? So I've got roughly here 100 square meters of cultivatable land to work with. So this isn't what Lenny says to do, by the way, in the book. This is just how I thought about it in my head. And it may be just the most ridiculous thing in the world. But the way I thought about it was that if I have 100 square meters of growing space and I want £10,000 in sales, then each square meter has to make £100 each over the course of the year. Yeah, you can see where I'm going with this, can't you? And you're thinking, oh God, how is she going to do this? And I haven't got an answer to it. I spent ages, and I've written down for all of the plants that I'm planning on growing how many I can grow per square meter, and therefore how many stems I think I'd get from those plants, and therefore how much each stem would cost and how that would contribute. So if I sold every stem for £1, and I'm not saying that I do, some of them are more and some of them are less. I think they're all going to have to be more at this point on these calculations, but just to make the numbers work when we're talking about this, if every stem costs £1, I would need to sell 10,000 stems over the course of 2026 in order to make that £10,000 worth of sales. So what I worked out was, if I put 18 roses, I'm going to get 18 shrub roses just to get me started with the roses, and I've picked out the ones I want, but that's probably another episode. And they're going in at one of the new beds that Nigel cleared the turf for, and it's 14 square meters long, and it's going to be probably a little bit over a meter wide, but we'll say a meter wide for argument's sake. So that entire rose bed of 14 square meters needs to make £1,400 per year. Now, if I can fit 18 roses in it, each rose would need to make £78 over the course of the year. So say my roll dull, which is going to go up there, say I got 10 stems off the roll dull over the course of the year, one flush and then a second flush, then each stem would have to cost £7.80. And there's no way in hell that's going to happen, I can tell you. So I was thinking, well, the answer to that, of course, is to underplant the roses with little annuals that would be not quite so demanding, because obviously roses like to have space around them. But it's true and it's not true, because I have roses that have got absolutely nothing around them, and they flounder around, and there's all these dramas and not much productivity. And then I've got other roses like my Roald Dahl, which has got all sorts of bits and pieces around it, and it could not care less. It will just do its own thing, not in the least bit put off. So Yeah, so that's not a hard and fast rule about that, in my experience anyway. So I was thinking, okay, well, I could plant loads of Olaya, for example, underneath all of the roses, and that would bring up the um, amount of money that every square meter has to make. So I did the same thing for the foxgloves. I'm thinking if I can only put 14 plants per square meter, roughly 25 centimeters apart, because you've obviously got that rosette of leaves, so you can't absolutely jam pack those guys in. And if I had one sellable stem from each foxglove, that's 14 stems. So £100 in that square meter divided by 14 is £7.14 per stem. So again, nobody's going to pay £7 for a stem of foxgloves. That's potty. So I'm wondering if the answer to that is that once all the foxgloves have flowered, is to clear the whole lot out and then you plant something else in so that for half of the year it's going to be having the foxgloves in, which will be obviously overwintering from this year. And then the second half of the year has another cut flower in it, an annual, a quick growing annual that gets transplanted in that can hit the ground running, flower, and then be lifted before the foxglove transplants go in the autumn. It's pretty tight scheduling on that. So you can see where I've been going with this. So I've done the same for the snaps. That was interesting. I worked out I could put 100 snaps per square meter and then get one stem per plant. So not pinch them out, just get one Wumpfing Great stem that comes up. And obviously 100 divided by 100 is £1 per stem for the snaps. So for some items, if you absolutely cram them in, the maths works, but for others, it doesn't. So yeah, as you can see there's an awful lot to think about. And the other fly in the ointment is that according to Lenny Larkin's calculations and what I've read elsewhere, to be honest, then when we look for our net profit, which should apparently be between 30 and 35%. So in order to get a net profit of £10,000, so not the sales, not turnover, but a net profit of £10,000, if that's what I wanted to take home in my pocket for the business, I would need therefore to make £30,000 worth of sales, which is, if you go on the very, very simple, very basic £1 a stem, that's 30,000 stems. So we'll just let that sink in for a second because it's partially melted my brain when I did all these calculations. And that's pretty epic. So I did all those calculations, had a bit of a brain freeze at that point, and haven't thought about it much since, except just wonder, have I just made a mess of things with all my calculations? And have I just overcomplicated things massively? Or are they really the numbers that I need to be going for in order to make the kind of sales that I need to have not just a profitable business? Because let's be honest, if you make £1 more than all of your costs, you've made a profit, but doesn't mean it's livable profit, doesn't mean it's a business that's going to sustain me even with my budget tastes these days. It's not going to work. So there's some clearly a lot more research to be done there. Oh, and the other interesting thing that I was looking at was foliage, because that's something that I have sold quite a bit of this year. And I love doing the foliage because it's so much fun. And, the volumes are just huge. You get great big armfuls of beech or hazel and it's lovely. But say you sell your buckets for £10 a bucket and I wanted to make £1,000 worth of foliage. That's 100 buckets. Now there's 20 stems in each bucket. So that's 2,000 stems. Like that's a big old volume of foliage that I would need to cut in order to make £1,000 worth of sales. So it's all a bit mind bending, all of this. And in order to get, decent money, well, relatively decent money compared to some people, I'm sure, who make a lot of money doing it, the number of stems you have to sell is pretty daunting. So there we go. I'm going to leave you with that. And I will be back on Friday when hopefully my brain has unfrozen and my hormone levels are back to some kind of semblance of normal. And I'm going to go and catch up with the latest episode. Well, not the latest episode, but I finally caught on to Yellowstone. I don't know if you watched it. It's on Netflix, and I have been working my way through it. So I've done season 1, halfway through season 2. Even more desperate now to go to the USA for a holiday. Got to get myself out to Montana. And I've got some cowboy boots somewhere. I'm actually thinking about digging them out. But anyway, I shall leave you with that. And please do come back and join me on Friday for the latest news. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care, have fun, and come back and join me soon.